Hey everyone, welcome back. So if you think Canada isn't taking the annexation threat seriously anymore, you might want to hear this. Because our military is now planning scenarios that were never supposed to leave the hypothetical stage. But at the rate things are going right now, these scenarios might not stay hypothetical for long. In today's video, I'm going to talk all about this. I'll also break down Prime Minister Mark Carney's speech at Davos, which he got a standing ovation for, and what it signals moving forward. We're also going to talk about why Canada and Europe needs to firmly push back and put this orange potato back in its place. Because things have escalated in the last few days, and this needs resistance at both the government and citizen level. I also have more community comments that I felt everyone needed to see, so stick around to the end for those. Today's backdrop comes from Brett, who recently moved to Yellowknife and sent in these photos of the NATO Northern Command headquarters. I think it fits this video perfectly, and especially what's going on right now. So thank you, Brett, and stay warm up there. Just a quick reminder before we continue. We do have a Discord server now. It's a joint space between Josh from the Enemy From Within and the GTL community. It's growing every day and gives like-minded people on both sides of the border, and even around the world, a place to talk about what's going on right now. If you're interested, the Discord link is going to be in the description below. Okay, starting with the first topic. Canada is now developing hypothetical scenarios and military models in the event that the United States decides to invade Canada. Honestly, it sounds so messed up when I say it out loud. But here we are in 2026. The Globe and Mail article states the following. A military model is a conceptual and theoretical framework, not a military plan, which is an actionable step-by-step directive for executing operations. With the way things are going right now, I personally think we need to go beyond the framework and actually have the plans and step-by-step directive ready. This is just my opinion, but it feels like the world leaders are still being a little bit too passive and overly diplomatic given the current situation. But I do get it. Giving the orange potato the middle finger at every opportunity would probably escalate things even worse. But internally, Canada and our allied nations should absolutely have these plans fully laid out and confirmed. I hope we never ever have to use them. But I am someone who always believes in having a backup plan. Coming from the tech industry, where uptime is critical, I never relied on chance or assumptions. I always have contingency plans, plan A, B, C, D, and beyond. My staff used to say to me, "Why do we need so many backup plans? You're being way too paranoid." And then there were days where we actually had to implement plans C and D. That shut them up pretty quick. I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly, but what I'm trying to say is, Canada taking this step is absolutely moving in the right direction, especially given the behavior we're seeing from our neighbors. That said, I personally believe we should go all in on contingency planning and firming down these plans in case the US decides to invade Canada. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments. And if you have no idea what I just talked about, let me know too, and I'll try to stop rambling. There's one more quote from the article that I wanted to share with everyone. I'll read it out. Canada does not have the number of military personnel or sophisticated equipment needed to fend off the conventional American attack. So, the military envisions unconventional warfare, in which small groups of irregular military or armed civilians would resort in ambushes, sabotage, drone warfare, or hit-and-run tactics. Let's be honest. Canada is short-handed when it comes to a direct military conflict with the United States of embarrassment. We're smaller, and we simply do not have the same military strength or scale as the US. But what they described here honestly reminds me of that movie Red Dawn from the 80s, where the Soviet Union invaded the United States and citizens were forced to push back. I remember watching this movie as a kid on TV and I hated the bad guys. And now, who's the bad guy in 2026? With that said, I hope like hell this never happens. But hope is not a plan. We still need to be prepared. We already know that Canada is proposing a 300,000 citizen army. And if push comes to shove, I will fly back to Canada to do my part. And I know I won't be alone either. There will be lots of Canadians abroad, on the plane right alongside me. What can I actually contribute? I honestly don't know. I don't have any military experience, and I'm quickly learning that my brain still thinks I'm 20, but my body is clearly telling me that I'm in my mid-40s. I mean, I pulled my neck muscle sneezing a few weeks ago. But anyways, whatever way I can help, I'll be there for my country, and I know many Canadians abroad will be as well. Now moving on, I want to show you a report that expands on the topic I covered yesterday. This is where the orange guy posted up a map of North America with the US flag plastered all over Canada, Greenland, and Venezuela. This was actually posted on his Truth Social page. Let's take a look.
CTV senior political correspondent Mike Locatour is looking into reaction here in Canada to yet another inflammatory provocation. Mike.
Well, Sandy, it's been a while since U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to make Canada the 51st state. And at least one former Canadian politician says it's time for the Prime Minister to put his foot down. The original photo came from an August meeting between President Donald Trump and European leaders. It shows them in the Oval Office with a map of Ukraine and Russia in the background. A newly doctored version posted by Trump shows a different type of expansionism. The new map shows the stars and stripes painted over Greenland, Venezuela, and Canada.
Seriously, how ridiculous is this? It's coming from the President of the United States of embarrassment. I watched his tirade a few nights ago on social media where he was posting all this nonsense at like 1:30 or 2 in the morning. There's something genuinely wrong with this guy's head. I'm sorry, but I had to vent.
He wants to be in control. He wants to manage. He wants to run the hemisphere and be a dictator.
Former Foreign Affairs Minister Lloyd Axworthy believes Canada needs to push back.
I think it's about time we showed a little sort of what the hell is going on, Mr. Trump? Would you stop this nonsense? Because if he's not confronted, then he will feel emboldened to go ahead.
I agree that we need to push back, but asking the orange child just to knock it off isn't going to get us anywhere at all. Canada and Europe needs to start thinking outside of the box when it comes to dealing with someone who behaves like a child.
Now, the Globe and Mail is reporting hypothetical responses to a U.S. military invasion are being modeled by the Canadian Armed Forces. However, the Foreign Affairs Minister would only speak broadly about national defense.
To always ensure that the defense and protection of our country is first and foremost on top of our list of priorities.
CTV News requested a comment from the Canadian Armed Forces, but we did not get one. Now, Trump has mused about taking over Canada for more than a year, but one of his former advisors downplayed the seriousness of that particular post.
But just in an interview that he did a few hours ago, he didn't say anything about the United States taking over Canada, and in fact referred to Canada's interest also in the Arctic. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that from the Canadian perspective.
Whether or not we should be concerned, what you're basically trying to tell us, Kellyanne, is to ignore the disrespect, to relax, and not to worry about it. Well, Kelly, what if I told you I was going to take over your home, call it the 11th province, and then just tell you to relax? And for the record, I don't want any U.S. state as the 11th province. Each state has its own share of MAGA, and I don't want them in our country. I'm honestly getting tired of people like you defending the orange child and saying shit like this. He doesn't need to come out and spell every word from his pie hole to know exactly what he wants to do. His actions through Truth Social posts were more than enough for me to understand what his intentions are. So Kellyanne, you can fuck right off. And I'm sorry for those who have kids around. She just really pissed me off.
Kellyanne Shaw says Trump is having a little fun with that post. But for many in Canada, it's serious.
This is dead serious for me as a Canadian. And I don't drop the F-bomb very often, only when I'm genuinely pissed. But I know for a lot of you watching right now, you felt probably the exact same way when you heard that statement. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me on Kellyanne's take. Now that's enough of the orange man and his child antics. I want to move on to a report where the adults are actually talking.
CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver is in Davos with more on Mark Carney's remarks, which triggered an audible reaction of support from the room. Hi, Annie.
Sandy, the Prime Minister says the world order is not transitioning, it's rupturing. And he called on middle powers like Canada to do things differently. And while Mark Carney did not specifically call out Donald Trump or the United States, the message was clear. Nestled in the usually calm mountains of the ski town Davos, a chaotic meeting of hundreds of politicians and top business leaders at the World Economic Forum that this year Prime Minister Mark Carney used to deliver a frank message about the future.
The old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy.
This right here isn't just a message for politicians, governments, and world leaders. It's a statement for everyday citizens around the world. Not just Canadians, but Europeans, Australians, citizens of Asia, South America, everywhere else in the world. The history, the nostalgia, he's back. The history, the nostalgia, the memories of going to Florida, Disneyland, Hawaii, or anywhere else we used to visit are becoming a thing of the past for many of us. As the days go by, my nostalgia for the United States is slowly dying, along with what the country has become. I would have loved to knock Pebble Beach off my bucket list, but honestly, it doesn't even cross my mind anymore. So in my opinion, and I could be completely wrong here, but those who are still going to the US, who took the blue pill and are living in a bubble, they can't let go of nostalgia, history, and old memories. They took the blue pill to stay comfortable inside that bubble. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my assessment.
But we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just.
Carney declared the U.S.-led world order dead and said countries must turn inward now that it's clear integration can lead to subordination.
Call it what it is, a system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion.
Withstanding those economic shocks, the Prime Minister said will require like-minded countries to pivot, to work together to hedge uncertainty. While Trump's name was never mentioned, Carney did call on middle powers like Canada to push back against domination by great powers, using tariffs as leverage and supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited.
Does anyone know why the French president is wearing sunglasses indoors? Anyways, we all know more tariffs are coming, and I honestly feel sorry for the businesses outside of the US because it's going to create even more yo-yo price patterns when it comes to figuring out what to charge for their products. So countries should be planning around this reality that we're in. In my perfect world, every country would be able to find alternate trade partners so that the reliance on the US is minimal.
In a world of great power rivalry, the countries in between have a choice: compete with each other for favor or to combine to create a third path with impact.
The message receiving what organizers described as a rare standing ovation at a summit where geopolitics and the future of Greenland is looming large.
Our commitment to NATO's Article 5 is unwavering. Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic.
Carney may get a chance to raise his concerns directly to the U.S. president tomorrow. Though Canada and the United States are not scheduled to meet right now, the two will be in Davos at the same time.
I saw somewhere that the Prime Minister might not even be there by the time the orange man-child finally arrives. And apparently he is arriving late because his plane had technical issues. In my opinion, there's no reasoning with him anyway, so why even bother meeting? But then again, that's just me. I'm sure we're going to hear a hell of a lot more coming out of Davos once the man-child actually shows up. Now I want to move on to a video I saw from another Canadian, and she shares her thoughts on the United States. Let's check it out.
In the middle of the night last night, U.S. President Donald Trump shared a series of AI-generated images to his social media account, including this one that depicts not only the territory that is the United States with the American flag over it, but also Canada, Greenland, and Venezuela. And as a Canadian, I just want to say this. I do not have a desire to ever be American. Ever. Not today, not tomorrow, not next week, not in a fucking year from now. Literally never. I would rather be deep fried. And I know for certain that a lot of Canadians share that sentiment. Yeah, not everybody wants to be American.
And honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. And Taylor, I know many Canadians watching right now share the exact same sentiment as you. Now to close off this video, I want to share a few comments from the community. Based on the feedback on what I've been seeing, it sounds like a lot of you actually enjoy this part, so I'm going to keep doing it. Just cross your fingers that my dyslexia doesn't decide to make an appearance today. The first one's from Ali. Great interview. I was born in Edmonton and lived in Vancouver and on the island until my family moved to the US when I was 10. I had spent most of my last 30 years in Minneapolis, St. Paul, in Minnesota. I had brief stints in Indiana and Seattle. Every word rings true. None of this attitude is new. Americans endlessly rib me for being Canadian, from accent to being from America's hat. Mostly it was seemingly good-natured, but the first Trump admin revealed the crack in the facade, the tail end of the American presidential campaign, and this second Trump admin has opened the floodgates. I have never known a group of people more self-centered and self-serving. Even considerate Americans can be pathologically myopic and heavily propagandized. The current ICE actions in Minnesota has served to solidify my desire to return to Canada. I'm genuinely anxious about leaving the apartment alone. I'm still a Canadian citizen, thankfully, but it's overwhelming the kind of preparation I'm looking at. Thank you for speaking truth to the power. The pettiest part of my heart hopes to see that both men and women's hockey gold around the Canadian necks in a month, and I hope many times many Americans come to sincerely regret the actions of their country. Well, Ali, I understand that the preparation to come back to Canada might be a lot to overtake. But maybe if you're interested, I can connect you with R, who is also relocating from Arizona back to Canada as we speak. So if you're interested, let me know. Send me an email. This next one comes from Roderick, who I believe is from Germany, because he did mention the Autobahn. On a homeward bound travel from family this week, we happened to stop by a McDonald's branch near the Autobahn 61, as my wife needed to go to the toilet. She told me the whole restaurant was empty, though it was Saturday afternoon with lots of shopping and leisure traffic around. Normally, every location is selling food, especially if it targets children, is a gold source on such days. Not longer for US brands. The only customer in took a shit. Literally. It's already understood that all the work being done locally, only the money goes to the US. My family decided no longer to buy the US-made products like jeans or bourbon. They are buying from Turkish clothing brands, as they are cheaper and often better quality. And they're in for Canadian and Irish whiskey. The boycott has just gathered more strength by the latest Orange man-child's tariff threats. I'm glad to hear that Europe is boosting up the boycott. And for our European viewers, a source in case you don't know about it, there is a subreddit called Buy EU, and you can use this subreddit to source for locally made products in Europe. Thanks for the update, Roderick, and also thank you for being a member as well. This next one comes from CT5625. Brit here. I know a couple who used to travel to the US regularly, several times a year. They had a 10-year list of places they wanted to see, national parks and historic cities and monuments, etc. When Trump was elected for the second time, they canceled all of it, and they have stated that they are never going back again. They have ended friendships with Americans they met during their numerous previous visits. They are now spending their time and money in Canada, Japan, and the EU, Australia, etc. They have explicitly told me that even if Trump is removed tomorrow and the US goes back to normal, they're never returning. They cannot stand the idea that 1 in every 3 Americans they might meet could have voted for such a disgusting man. They will never return to a nation where so many people choose to elect such a disgusting creature. Thanks for the comment, CT, and I'm actually glad to hear this feedback from Europe. Last one for today, and this is actually feedback from a region we don't hear from much. Mr. Empire Builder says, yes, the backlash is global. Here in the Philippines, a family of 8 went to the USA as per their usual annual visit. They are family friends of my cousin. At the border airport check, they were asked so many questions and given so much grief. And then the border guy kept pressing them on why they don't have a fixed itinerary, and he found the lack of hotel booking strange. We are family-oriented people. We have always stayed with relatives. And when I lived in California in the 90s, relatives just lived with us during their entire stay in the USA. I lost track of how many relatives and friends we hosted in our house from overseas. Our house in Tustin City was the place to be because we were close to Disneyland, and it was cheap back then, just $25 a person, and it wasn't as stressful as today. So these questions about why the family lacked hotel bookings and a solid travel itinerary is insane and weird. It finally pissed off one of the parents too much that they said, forget it, let's find us a flight back. And they never left the airport. They flew straight back to the Philippines. Thanks for sharing this, Mr. Empire Builder. And that sounds like a lot of money that was just wasted. But I am glad to hear that the boycott is going in the Philippines. But this also does prove that what happened in the past is not what's happening now in 2026. Alright, that's all the comments I have for today's video. And I genuinely appreciate everyone who takes the time to share their stories and what's happening in their region. Because I'll be honest, we're not going to hear any of this from the local media or even the national media. This is firsthand experience from everyday people, and that's what actually matters. Honestly, I've been thinking about doing an entire video just focused on my community comments. If that's something you would like to see, let me know below. And to make it easier for me to filter, just type in something simple like, yes, do a comment video. That way I can actually filter it to see how many people want me to do it. That's all for today. We have the Orange Man-child arriving in Davos, and I'm sure that's going to be a rocky day ahead. If you found any value in anything I've said today, help out my channel by hitting the like and subscribe button below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.